WHCR 90.3 FM, New York.
Each year, 650,000 individuals are released from jails and prisons across America. There's a 67% chance that they'll be incarcerated again within 3 years. While this is a big problem, there's an even bigger solution: education. Education is the most effective response to crime, and College Initiative works to make college a realistic goal for formerly incarcerated New Yorkers. College Initiative works to help formerly incarcerated individuals to become stabilizing forces in their communities and advocates towards working for a safer New York. For more information, visit www.collegeinitiative.org.
Nurse, set up an IV. And you, her boyfriend, you were the driver?
Yes, doctor, but I didn't mean to hurt her. I only had a few drinks. I was just buzzed.
Just buzzed? Oh, then your girlfriend is fine.
Hey, sweetie. I feel great.
She's really okay?
What, are you kidding? No, not really. Nurse, get me a suture kit. Stat.
Buzzed driving. Maybe we should stop acting like it's no big deal. Buzzed driving is drunk driving. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Transportation and the Ad Council.
This is a guided meditation on parenting. Take a deep breath in and let go of the time you and your son played basketball and you attempted to slam dunk. Or when you hit that piñata into your neighbor's yard. Let it go.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who don't need perfection. They need you. For more information on how you can adopt, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
You're listening to WHCR 90.3 FM, the voice of Harlem.
WHCR is doing it again, giving you the opportunity to show your support while having a great time. On Saturday, April 12th from 10 p.m. to 3 a.m., WHCR's house DJs come together to bring you a house party like no other. You decide how much you want to pay to party. That's right, you decide your admission. Grab your dancing shoes, your whistle, and your donation, and dance to the sounds of house music by WHCR's DJ Little Tiger of Impulse Travels, DJ Andre Collins of Universal Love of House Music, and DJ Justice of the Flavor Zone. That's Saturday, April 12th, 10 p.m. to 3 a.m. at Farafina Cafe and Lounge, located at 1819 Amsterdam Avenue at 150th Street. Remember, your financial support ensures that some of the best music, most informative, and educational programs continue to be heard on this station. Divas Beauty Salon has moved. Divas Beauty Salon, a team of professional Dominican hairstylists with more than 10 years of experience in Harlem, has moved to the Bronx. Recently renovated for your convenience and better service, the salon offers a full range of services, including wash and sets, wash and blow dry, relaxers with deep conditioning, touch-ups, semi and permanent color, haircuts, and more. Divas Beauty Salon, located at 670 East 161st Street between Codwell and Trinity Avenues in the Bronx. Open 7 days a week for your convenience, Monday through Saturday 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Sundays 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. For more information, call 718-292-0055. That's 718-292-0055. Remember, at Divas Beauty Salon, we value your time. We're not here to waste it.
Ain't no justice, ain't no peace. I ain't tryna find me up in the belly of the beast. I ain't got no problems with the police. So the police ain't got no problems with me. I'm just tryna do my thing, just let me do my thing. I'm just tryna do my thing, just let me do my thing. I'm just tryna do my thing, just let me do my thing. I'm just tryna do my thing, just let me do my thing. Is this what it means to be black in America? You gotta watch your back in America. Land of the free, home of the brave. Call your homies, homie, you might might not make it home today. These young boys wildin', cops profiling, black on black violence. Sirens, they say, they take them to the island. I ain't talking Hawaii. What y'all thought? Y'all wouldn't get hauled off? Don't worry, I got a lawyer that can get y'all off. But nothing can save you on the day of judgment. You think this element? I know a place with no government. Hell, you die in the streets, they put out them candles. Call up the news crews, tell them pull out the cameras. Put it on every channel, watch how they hand us. A not guilty verdict put us back in them handcuffs. Ain't no justice, ain't no peace. I ain't tryna find me up in the belly of the beast. I ain't got no problems with the police. So the police ain't got no problems with me. I'm just trying to do my thing, just let me do my thing. I'm just trying to do my thing, just let me do my thing. I'm just trying to do my thing, just let me do my thing. I'm just trying to do my thing, just let me do my thing.
Yeah, boy, this is Respect for Life. Let me do my thing.
I ain't never sold a drug, I ain't never sold a key. But the soda they could see, like the soda I could be. But I got me a degree.
You can only hear positive rap here on WHCR 90.3 on the FM dial. On Respect for Life, Aisha Seku's program, Africa Bambata, Black Icon, and a host of other shows, unique unto themselves, reflecting the community at large. And this is Respect for Life with Brother Leroy, your host. Thankful to the Most High for blessing us with another day on this good earth, another day to do some good deeds for ourselves, our families, for our community, and for humanity at large, treating people the way we want to be treated. And of course, the program that you're about to hear does not reflect the views, attitudes, whims, deeds, or any other proclivities of the management of WHCR, nor that of the administration of City College. However, the program does reflect the research done by the participants in the program, live and live in color in studio, by phone interview, and of course there is you, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, the first-class citizens of the world. We start Respect for Life dealing with mental health. We approach it today from the education standpoint. We have three wonderful guests in our studios, and you just heard our good brother Laban, positive rapper. He made a lot of money doing the wrong rap. He woke up one morning, the devil was standing over his bed. He said, wait a minute. He forgot he had looked at a monster movie the night before. He ate bad food, went to bed late. The devil is looking at him in the morning. He changed up. Just like Paul falling off the horse. He changed up. Now he's an advocate of resurrecting mine as opposed to burying them in saggy graves. God bless you, Brother Wendell, yes. Brother Laban, and
good morning.
Brother Christopher Williams. They brought Christopher Williams along because he had asked where they were a couple of weeks ago. So, all right, we confess. We was on this black show up in here, you know. So Christopher said, come on, let me get some of this. Christopher, God bless you.
And back at you, brother.
And the organization is Learning for Leadership.
The leadership program.
The leadership program.
Yes.
All right. Now, Christopher is the director of social emotional learning for the leadership program.
That's
all
right.
That's okay. Right. And what is, okay, before we get into, just share with us, Wendell and Laban, how you became involved in the leadership training program.
Okay.
How you began it, how you...
I was formerly a beacon director at Wadley Secondary School.
Yes.
Excuse me. When the leadership program began programming in, I'd say, 1998. And at the school, they had came to do a safe and drug-free, 100% safe and drug-free school community grant. It was a national grant that they had won, and Wadley was designated as one of the locations to facilitate this particular grant. And they were there with violence prevention, conflict resolution, and building of communities. It was through my work as a beacon director that we would obviously sit at the table together to talk about issues regarding the school, and we became familiar with one another. I certainly respected the work that they were doing, and there was a mutual feeling about coming on board, about me doing my or continuing my work with the leadership program.
So, Laban, how does leadership training have an impact on violence suppression or violence prevention?
Well, we actually have a program that's called the Violence Prevention Project that we run in many schools across the city, in several boroughs, and it's a program that's been designated as a model program by the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency. And
delinquency prevention.
Don't
forget that word. That's a big word.
Delinquency prevention. That's why I gave him the look to make sure I had it right. So it's these acronyms. But and the work we do, we focus on various components. Leadership, team building, conflict resolution being a huge part of it. And what we do is through an experiential based activities, we help the students to get an understanding, help them to be able to communicate with each other and understand what it means to communicate and how to resolve conflict, because conflict is a part of life. Conflict is something that happens anytime humans come together. And through allowing them to have activities that are fun in nature, we also we're able to process those experiences with our youth groups to help them to come to an understanding of how they can employ different tactics, conflict resolution, conflict management tactics that they get out of the activities, that are simple in nature within the classroom. We help them to understand how they can take that classroom experience that we have with them out into the world, and how those strategies and tactics that they're learning with us, can be utilized outside in with their friends, in the hallways of the school, in the community, wherever they may go.
Experiential learning is what?
Going through an activity of any nature, and reflecting upon that activity to get from it what you can. So for instance, let's we play a lot. Some of our activities are games. So if the four of us were to sit down and play some sort of a game, let's say it was
anything. It could be tic-tac-toe or
tic-tac-toe. Let's go with tic-tac-toe. In the midst of playing tic-tac-toe, there's X's and O's, and there's certain feelings that come up for me as I'm going through that game. There'll be certain things that come up for you in the nature of competition in itself. You cheated, it's not your turn, just whatever may happen. Once we finish that game, if we were to take a look back at some of our observations on what happened throughout that game, we might discover, for me, I might, there might have been certain feelings that I can talk about that came up, and the reasons why they came up. Well, Brother Leroy, he constantly was going out of turn, but just going through that and talking through that experience helps us to just break it down in essence, and look at it to see, okay, well, what can we learn from that experience? If he's going out of turn, okay, well, how did I handle that? So we can talk about that aspect.
Do you mind if I jump in?
Of course, go ahead.
It's a specific process of asking questions, and so the first question, we call it publishing. So you just say what happened during the activity, and then we talk about what literally took place, and then we say, okay, what observations did you make for yourself individually? And we might all go around and say, well, I observed this about myself, or I observed that about myself, and we call that publishing. And so in the publishing stage, we talk about that's the processing stage. We talk about what feelings came up. What did you notice about yourself? And then what did you notice about the group? And then the third stage is we call generalizing. And so we say, okay, well, Brother Leroy went out of turn. Have you ever been in a situation anywhere else where somebody kind of maybe cut in line or went out of turn, and then did these similar feelings come up? And you say, oh, yeah, my brother, he's always doing that, or something like that. And you say, okay, well, what did you learn here that you could take back to those similar experiences outside of this classroom? And that's the final phase, and we call that application. So it's publishing, processing, generalizing, and application. And this isn't ours. This is a technique that's out in the world, experiential learning cycle. But as Laban was saying, the activity itself doesn't really matter. Any experience will do. It's how do we process that experience through that cycle? Publishing, processing, generalizing, application, so that the learning travels outside of the confines of this room back to whatever area of your life you want to apply it to.
What comes to mind in terms of conflict are basketball games played in whatever neighborhood championship, whatever, and it goes off into members of the,
violence,
fighting, involving everybody, from my neighborhood. That's my man. You fouled him, Cat go down on the court because the player fouled his man. And have you ever looked at films and analyzed films to the degree, when I say film video of a game, and that reflected conflict, and then analyzed it? Have you ever done that?
Not specifically with the students, like that. Not a film of them, but
not of them. I'm talking about an incident.
We've used, we've done that. We've used, film either, from like YouTube or from an actual event. Right. I mean, a number of years ago, the famous one was when he was called Ron Artest, right? When Ron Artest went up into the crowd,
right?
That was something that we used a lot. I think I was up at Roosevelt at the time, and we talked about that with the students up there. And same sort of thing. Like, have you ever felt, offended to the point that you want to use physical violence? And then what are the consequences, right? That's an actual lesson out of our VPP curriculum. We call it choices, decisions, and consequences. And so we actually, literally, we take a piece of newsprint and we put those columns down there: choices, decisions, and consequences. What choices do you have available to you? And then if you were to make this decision, what are the potential consequences, good or bad, right? Because consequences can be positive or negative.
Let me ask the three of you. Last week was the murder of a delivery man out in Staten Island.
Unbelievable.
And you had, according to the story, is that these three young men, 16 through 17 years of age, as I recall, they planned this thing for 3 days. To rob someone in their own neighborhood. Okay, how do you get into the minds of these individuals who I feel are leader types, but in the wrong direction? And why do I say leader types? Because they were always giving somebody a problem, but they saw it. The people who they were dealing with saw them as problems, as opposed to taking the energy and saying, "All right, let's work with this bad boy." That's my phrase. Let's work with this individual and put some intervention in there. So how do you analyze, how do you get into the minds of those individuals? How are you going to plan something out? I'm not saying this critically. I'm saying this asking analysis. How do you get into the mind? How limited is an individual that they can plan something out like that destroys multiple lives in the end? And even if they weren't caught, it would still impact on their lives. How do you approach something like that?
Well, it would be interesting for me to find out what their academic background or their school behavior and attendance and so forth has been documented. I don't know what resources are in their community. Staten Island, I am totally unfamiliar with all due respect to Staten Island, haven't spent much time out there. I'd certainly like to know what their family structure was like, how many people were in the household, how many adults were in the household, and things like that, in order to see sort of what brought them to this, I would have to say, level of desperation, because it appeared to be such a desperate act for $20 or $30. How much did you think a delivery man actually was going to have in his pocket? And then there's three of you, so that breaks down to $6.33 a piece for assaulting someone, even if it hadn't led, unfortunately, to his murder. So I'd like to certainly have more background information on them to sort of be able to tell, like, sort of where you could have gotten in to sort of reach them.
Layden?
Yeah, I mean, I think what comes to mind for me is patterns, and I wonder, like what are the patterns of, that they have seen, prior to or even been involved with. I'm sure that this is not the first violent act that they were involved with. And maybe for one or two of them, maybe it was, but prior to, there has to be some level of progression. Whether it's gang related. Anger, maybe they had certain things done to them, And I think it's really a matter of breaking down. Okay, like what is your history? What experiences have you gone through in life? That affected you in any way, shape, or form to where you feel that violence is okay. I think that just in general, a lot of the young people of today, I'm not sure if you're familiar, but there are many websites out there now, YouTube being one of them, World Star Hip Hop being another, where folks, they upload cell phone videos of them fighting.
Right, exactly.
We walk out in Harlem, after school, and if there's any fight, there's at least 5 different cell phones out, and folks are taping it and then uploading it. And many of our youth today are going home after school, going to YouTube, going to World Star Hip, and watching fights. And so, in essence, what I see is a programming of the mind, a conditioning of the mind to violence, to violence, in essence, and a numbing of the normal human sensibility, or our sensory, towards what it means to be violent, and how it affects the other person, or how it affects those around, or the family that's affected by a murder, if it goes that far.
Christopher?
Yeah, and just on a bit of an aside, I think you're going to just get a sense of the different roles that the three of us play when we work together, because I agree 100% with what the both of them said, and I'm just going to try to paraphrase a little bit about what they said into clinical terminology. Laban was talking about patterns. And from a neurological perspective, that's exactly what happens in our brains, is that the behaviors that we do and that we repeat over time form neural connections. Those neurons start to connect to one another, and that is then what becomes normal for us. And it's fascinating to me that neuroscience now is kind of catching up to what we've known from an anecdotal or observational perspective for years. Aristotle said over 2,000 years ago, we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, therefore, is not an act, but a habit. Well, not only excellence, but as we're seeing, violence is also not an act, but it can be a habit. And what then starts to happen as those neurons start to connect is that becomes normal for us. And then that normalcy is not shocking or anything. It is what we do. And what Wendell was talking about is learning about the academic history, the family history. What he was wanting to do is what we call, from a clinical perspective, a biopsychosocial analysis. So we want to get a history of if I were in a clinical session with these students, I would want to learn what is their medical history. That's the bio. What is their mental health history? Have they ever been evaluated from an educational perspective? Do they have an IEP? Are there any things that we would term
IEP?
An individual education plan. If a student in school goes and gets evaluated and they become designated special needs, they have an IEP, an individual education plan.
They may get a plan, but it may not be implemented.
That's absolutely true, and that's a whole nother conversation that we can certainly dive into. But then that bio, that psycho, and then that social. Who's in their family structure? Who's in what we would call their spheres of influence? That's how we phrase it. And then once we start to learn that, then we start to understand what's influencing them, what's impacting them on a neurological perspective, and then how is that helping to frame for them what is normal, what is expected. And from an intervention perspective, you were asking, what I need to do as the clinician is not go in and immediately tell them that they were wrong. I need to try to understand from their perspective, how did you form this sense of normalcy? Where did this come from? And then from that sense of normalcy, from their perspective, I need to start asking them, what other choices could you have made? What other decisions could you have made? What goals do you have for yourself? When you were 5 years old, did you plan that you'd like to go to jail? Is that what the course of your life was? Or did you have other dreams? Do you have other aspirations? And then how can I help you to work from wherever you are now towards those goals and aspirations?
In the real world that we would have to construct, you would take the experience of that kind of incident, of those kind of individuals, and use that experience as a blueprint with others who fall into that category.
That's
or
right.
most likely would fall into that
That's
category. And that's the benefit of going in and doing that kind of research, which we do not necessarily, if it's done, that kind of research is hidden away. Because you can only do that research and come up with solutions that, if you're coming up with solutions that are humane. Now, you can come up with solutions that are, when they cross this threshold, it's no longer 3 strikes you're out, it's 1.5 strikes you're out. Or you go into the violence initiative, which is you go into this fake thing about DNA. Their DNA inclines them to be aberrations in the society, and therefore you gear them in a certain direction, or they become useless eaters, as the so-called 0.5% would have us believe. How familiar are you with the Soviets' intervention after World War II in saving their youth?
I'm not familiar with that.
Not at all.
Okay, all right. Well, that's another story. The bottom line is that their communities, their cities, were filled with orphans who were on their own, and it formed packs. So the Soviets could have destroyed them, or they could have initiated saving them. And they initiated saving them by sending psychologists, social scientists, psychologists into the various cities to come up with a methodology, that clinical analysis, and come up with a methodology of saving their youth, which proved to be a saving grace for the Soviet Union. But that is something that they did. And let's talk about, before we end, because we only have 5 minutes, let's talk about what the three of you see individually as being things that the audience can do, adults, grandparents, teenagers themselves can do to save the youth and propel them in the direction that the Almighty ordained for us in the very beginning. When we were conceived, God don't make junk. In other words, we're conceived in an environment, in a negative environment, because that seed, the sperm didn't have to reach that egg. Out of billions that are released. So all of us are unique individuals, whomever we are, wherever we are. And there is a reason that we're on the planet, and it's not to become aberrations or abnormal entities. So the three of you, as we conclude this session.
I would certainly lead in the area of accountability, to begin to hold young people more accountable for their actions. Too often they're given assignments or directives or instructions on things that they need to do or should have done, and when they fail to do so, they're sort of let go to the next time. And I say each and every time a young person who may be in your home, if it is your child, if it is a student in your classroom, if it is a young person that's in your program, a youth program, youth ministry, whatever it might be, to hold them accountable for their actions, his or her actions.
Now, how do you do that?
Well,
holding them accountable.
Well, if there's an assignment that's due, they're to be graded harshly on failing to submit that assignment. If there's a chore that is done, that was failed to be done, then there's some other privileges.
You don't let it slide.
You don't let it slide.
Okay.
There are other privileges that you then take away from them. You know your children, you know what it is that they like to do or like to have or places they like to be.
You correct them on the spot.
You correct them on the spot, and you take something away that is near and dear to them.
Okay.
And I would kind of not piggyback, but just kind of continue what Wendell was speaking about in terms of parenting. I think, as parents or in this generation, parents are getting younger and younger. And, with that, is a sense of, we're so ready to let our kids grow up. And unfortunately, a 13-year-old is not grown. I have a 13-year-old son, and as much as he thinks he's grown, as much as he looks like he's capable of taking. I got a 13-year-old.
You had your child at 9 years of age. What's going on, brother?
Man, that made my day. That would be.
I'm sorry, brother.
That made my day.
I'm looking at this brother up here. You intimidate me, brother. You come. Brothers, the music. Oh man! So,
but my son, he looks physically and even can talk and articulate himself in a way where you might think that he's ready for the world.
Yeah.
But as a man who's grown up and gone through the world, I know he's not. Because I know at 13 what types of mistakes I was making, and so I would say, don't be so quick to let your kids grow up. I still, people look at me and say, oh, well, you don't let your kids, let them take the subway to school. Can he go by himself? Yeah, he can go by himself. But I prefer to go with them because that's more time for us to talk, and we can talk about the things that we see and observe as we walk through Harlem. We can talk about what happened in school yesterday, what's going to happen in school today. And, there's a lot of conversation that can be had, and there's much wisdom that I can continue to share with them in that little bit of, that half hour, 45 minutes of just traveling to school. So, stay with them. My parents never really let me, I used to want to be so independent. And now I understand why, they wanted, there was a sense of, okay, you're going to be, I wanted to go to football games by myself, and I wanted to go to the mall and just do a whole lot of things. And, my mother, she would take us, but it was like, okay, she was still in the vicinity. She was somewhere close by.
Behind a pole looking
at me, wherever it may be. And I didn't understand that, but I understand it now, and I appreciate, the fact that they were there and they cared enough to guide me, beyond what today we would say is, okay, the age of independence.
Okay, before Christopher goes, let's identify ourselves. Respect for Life, coming to you over WHCR 90.3 on the FM dial.
You're listening to WHCR 90.3 FM, the voice of Harlem.
Christopher.
Yeah, going along with what Laban started is, to me, it's about engagement. And it's about building relationships. If we were to go back to the previous example of how patterns are formed and how things become normal, I can't identify how something that's becoming normal to a child that I'm working with might start to deviate from what is kind of socially acceptable, or what I would call pro-social versus anti-social. I can't identify that unless I have a relationship and unless I'm engaged in talking with those youth. So it has to be, everything to me starts from a place of engagement. If you're an educator, how are you welcoming your students into your classroom? How are you checking in with them? How are you getting to know them? I heard an educator last week talk about, at the beginning of the year, he hands out index cards to all of his students, and he has them write down their favorite song, what kind of music they listen to, what's their favorite movie, what books are they reading, and then he goes and researches that. And he listens to their music, and then he starts a conversation with them.
Okay.
And oh, hey, I heard that song. Like, like I like the beat, but the lyrics, maybe it was a little rough on me. And then he has a conversation with them, and from there he can start to suggest other forms of music or other things. But if all I'm doing is coming in and saying to them, "Turn that music off. I don't want to hear that noise," well, then that student is already turning me off. Turning off to me.
Well, you're turning him off.
That's right. And so how then can I help to guide or help to structure his thought pattern or his goals if he's not listening to me anymore?
You become a caretaker as opposed to a guide.
That's right. And so I have to always start in social work. We say be where the client is. I have to be where you are. I have to enter your world and understand where your values are, and then start an engagement, a process around that, to start to talk about, well, did you ever consider this? Did you ever think about this? But if all I'm doing is going in there and telling them they're wrong, then I'm closing the door before I even have an opportunity.
All right. That's a big meal for thought. That's a big meal for thought. I'd like to extend to the three of you the opportunity to come back for an expanded time, and you would have the opportunity of bringing a student or two who have come through, and you can do your publishing and processing and generalization and implementation application. You can bring some great, wonderful stories, and you can bring some, hey, he was at a high level, or she was at a high level through our training we were able, they can tell us about the training they went through.
Yes,
Yeah, that'd be great.
You know?
Yeah, we have a young man in mind. We were
Yep,
already,
for sure,
We
yep.
were already talking about this young man who came through our program.
Laban's son, right?
Well, in addition to that, yes, absolutely.
All right, well, beautiful, beautiful. Well, thank you for this half hour of overview, and our audience well served in terms of your spirit, your insight, and the knowledge of the work that you're doing, because you go from school to school.
Yes.
That's right, yes.
TheLeadershipProgram.com is the website, www.theleadershipprogram.com. You can see more or read up more about what we're doing. You'll actually see our faces in the staff profile page.
Okay.
That's right.
All right. And I'm going back to Laban and no justice, no peace.
Much appreciated.
All right. God bless you all.
Thank you so much,
You too,
Brother
brother.
Leroy.
All right.
Thank you for having us.
And I work it. And my wife ain't in no strip club. Twerking. My son ain't did nothing. Ain't no need to search him. So why you wanna stop, frisk and search him? They ask why I'm marching, I tell them ask Martin. They ask why I'm preaching, I tell them ask Sharpton. They ask if I'm being facetious, I laugh as I pull off in the Aston Martin. Don't get me started, I'm broken hearted. We work too hard to get this far and get disregarded. If you ever been arrested and racially charged, go ahead and sing along with the chorus. Ain't no justice, ain't no peace. I ain't tryna find me up in the belly of the beast. I ain't got no problems with the police, so the police ain't got no problems with me. I'm just tryna do my thing, just let me do my thing. I'm just tryna do my thing, just let me do my thing. I'm just tryna do my thing, just let me do my thing. I'm just tryna do my thing, just let me do my thing. Yeah. 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 Ain't no justice, ain't no peace. I ain't tryna find me up in the belly of the beast. I ain't got no problems with the police, so the police ain't got no problems with me.
WHCR is doing it again, giving you the opportunity to show your support while having a great time. On Saturday, April 12th from 10 p.m. to 3 a.m., WHCR's house DJs come together to bring you a house party like no other. You decide how much you want to pay to party. That's right, you decide your admission. Grab your dancing shoes, your whistle, and your donation, and dance to the sounds of house music by WHCR's DJ Little Tiger of Impulse Travels, DJ Andre Collins of Universal Love of House Music, and DJ Justice of the Flavor Zone. That's Saturday, April 12th, 10 p.m. to 3 a.m. at Farafina Cafe and Lounge, located at 1819 Amsterdam Avenue at 150th Street. Remember, your financial support ensures that some of the best music, most informative, and educational programs continue to be heard on this station. Diva's Beauty Salon has moved. Diva's Beauty Salon, a team of professional Dominican hairstylists with more than 10 years of experience in Harlem, has moved to the Bronx. Recently renovated for your convenience and better service, the salon offers a full range of services, including wash and sets, wash and blow dry, relaxers with deep conditioning, touch-ups, semi and permanent color, haircuts, and more. Diva's Beauty Salon, located at 670 East 161st Street between Codwell and Trinity Avenues in the Bronx. Open 7 days a week for your convenience, Monday through Saturday 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Sundays 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. For more information, call 718-2 718-292-0055. That's 718-292-0055. Remember, at Diva's Beauty Salon, we value your time. We're not here to waste it.
Once again, this is WHCR 90.3 on the FM dial, Respect for Life. Yesterday on the Communicators, we started a brief interview with Dr. Ashanti, Dr. Kwabena Fahim Ashanti of North Carolina, regarding therapy, the therapy that's administered to military folks coming back from whatever theater of war, past or present, and getting inside the therapy, the quality of therapy, the components of therapy, the ideal therapy, and what is actually going on. And doing it from the standpoint of giving you, the audience, giving me included, an insight into what the therapy is. And we hear about therapy in the current story coming out of Fort Hood, but what really is going on, and we have him back to finish that discussion. God bless you. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Ashanti.
Thank you. Good to be back with you.
Okay, let's go through the post-traumatic stress disorder. Describe that as it relates to people having served in the military. We think, and we're based on current events in the last, I would say, the last 10 years, the average consumer or citizen thinks that post-traumatic stress disorder relates only to Iraq, Afghanistan, or some other similar theater of war engagement. But from what I understand, it can go further than that. It can go to World War II, it can go to Korean War. Give us an insight.
Well, actually, ever since there have been wars in particular, there's been post-traumatic stress disorder, but it won't recognize and classify as that until the late 50s, somewhere around early 1960s. And basically, we say that it typically can appear within 3 months of whatever it was that you encountered. But we now know that it could take years before the symptoms show up. And it's been classified into 3 different types: intrusive memories, avoidance and numbing, and increased anxiety, emotional arousal. Now, on intrusive memories, we get flashbacks, reliving the traumatic event for a minute or even a day or a week, upsetting dreams about the particular incident. Then we can go to avoidance, emotional numbing. That's like trying to avoid thinking or even talking about traumatic events. I want you to notice this, that when you talk to veterans, be they male or female, if they've ever been in the actual fighting side of the war, you very seldom know it, you very seldom ever hear them even talk about it. But those veterans who seem to get most of the attention, those who constantly talking about war, usually marching and demonstrating, but if you really view them, most of them were not directly on the fighting side, they were on the other side. That's an example of how PTSD can take effect around people who were not actually in it or so forth, but heard about it or saw it and were scared, afraid.
In other words, they can absorb that.
They can absorb that. Hospital personnel, for example, treating veterans coming to the hospital. I worked with a case recently. He was 50%. He had a 50% classification, so he was getting paid for that. He was hospital social work 1 a minute. Now he has gotten so bad, we had to have him reevaluated again. And now he's up to 100%. But he was a nurse. He didn't carry a gun or anything like that. Yeah. And so there's no set formula for all veterans. Different people have different reactions and they chew anything that's stressful. So, but we have some general guidelines, but that's basically it. Many veterans also have a lot of difficulty maintaining close relationships, having friends, getting a lot of divorces, things like that. Memory problems, trouble concentrating. These are no other symptoms. Inability, get irritable or angry all the time. Self-destructive behavior such as drinking too much, trouble sleeping, been easily startled or frightened, seeing or hearing things that's not there. I can recall driving home one night, and perfectly normal, everything was fine, beautiful night. And I looked across a field that they were doing some construction, and they cut down a lot of the trees. But at night, for some strange reason, as I was asking, damn, I thought it was Vietnam. I thought these were villages and stuff. It scared the hell out of me. I was like, in the world. You know, that was that was 40 years ago. But I'm just saying, these things, traumatic events, tend to ingrain itself, so to speak, in a muscle tissue, and there's no telling when it will come up.
The point you just made is that, in addition to being a psychologist, you are a veteran of the Vietnam War.
That is correct.
And at that time, it wasn't termed post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yes, but it was very, very early on. It wasn't when I got discharged. It was not something that was readily available in my mind, PTSD. I'm a psychologist, and it took a while for me to get used to even recognizing and saying it myself. So it wasn't something, let's say, for example, they say generally can happen as early as 3 months after the ordeal. Well, when I first came home, I came home and I was glad to be here. And I never forget, I was sitting on Fayetteville Street where all the traffic comes and just looking at those pretty black people. I thought black people were the prettiest people I've ever seen in my life because I hadn't seen them in so long. And I really did. And then the second week, I was driving down the street going to the university. And somebody pulled up behind me and just gently tapped the rear of my car. And I looked back through the mirror and I saw a bunch of guys, so I got happy instead of getting angry because I knew it had to be some of my buddies and my friends because they didn't damage my car. And then as we went further on, I kept looking back trying to see if I could identify him. And gradually I would recommend, I didn't know anybody in that car. And before I knew it, I was standing outside my car, shooting them, killing them with my hands with no gun, no nothing. I don't know how I got in the car, anything. I should have been ran straight to the VA then, but I didn't know anything at that time about PTSD.
Wait a minute, when you got out the car, you imagine yourself?
Yes, I didn't even remember. I just flew into a rage and felt I was being attacked. So I unconsciously, I stopped the car, jumped out, grabbed my M16, and I had it in my hand like that, pulling the trigger, except I didn't have no gun in my hand at all. I had nothing, and they were looking at me like they were scared to death. Then I got scared to death because they could have shot and killed me. I had nothing.
Man.
That was 1 week after I had gotten home. And I didn't consider myself having PTSD.
Real quick, shell shock, what is that?
That's jumping, hiding, trying to take cover.
Okay.
When you hear a loud noise, you think you're being shot at.
And that's in a category of post-traumatic stress disorder.
That is, no question. What we used to call shell shock, that is now post-traumatic stress disorder.
Now, we only have limited time. What's the ideal approach, based on your experience, the ideal approach to post-traumatic stress disorder therapy, and what is your observation of what is actually happening now?
Well,
We're generalizing. Go ahead.
Yes. Actually, the treatment to post-traumatic stress disorder originally was thought by the people who made the Center for Disease Control had recommended that veterans go to the VA hospital, be evaluated and classified at what level of sickness they have. Then the treatment was medication. And there's a group of medication called benzodiazepines. That's basically the whole. There's two classes, but that's one of them. That particular class, almost all anxiety medicine for depression, things like that, under that, and that really is bad news, very, very bad news, and it has been used so much. I would say 90% of all veterans get it, but now the treatment there have been so many problems been reported with the drugs that the Army has revised itself in its manuals, but it has not necessarily got down into efficient practice to avoid, to stop taking them, and to go and use it only in emergency situations just to stabilize the patient, and then do oral talking therapy and treatment like you do for any other people who've gone through stress. Senior citizens in particular, they have recommended to stop taking it with senior citizens because a lot of them can fall and get hurt. And the research that's been done, they compared that kind of treatment with these medicines with placebos, something that they make the patient think they're getting the real medicine, but it's not, and they found absolutely no difference in both of them. So basically, it's psychotherapy, talking therapy, counseling is individually, and it can be with groups, but I don't prefer groups too much with PTSD because they can become dependent on each other and war stories. But individual therapy is superior to a private counselor, not a VA counselor. That's the ideal situation. But if you can't provide a private counselor, then you can go to the VA. But if you go to a private counselor and don't have the money, as long as you can pay it up front, then when you file your claim for PTSD, they will pay for it themselves for you, even at a private clinic.
Okay, so the ideal that you would have for post-traumatic stress disorder patients or individuals would be what? A, B, C, D.
It would be to go to the VA and tell your real symptoms. Many veterans are so afraid of losing their benefit that they don't actually report all the symptoms that they have, therefore they don't know they can go to private counselors and private doctors, but they can, and the government will pay for it. But because that message has not gotten to the masses, they don't do it. But ideally, you go to the VA and tell your doctor, I don't seem like I've been helped by this medicine. I would like to gradually withdraw from each for one by one until I start feeling better. And the doctor is up on his treatment protocols. He will agree and will gradually draw you one until you get there and you start noticing improvement in your mind and things like that. To be sleep better.
Okay, and what is happening now? You indicated earlier before that the initial step within the VA is to give them a drug, quote, a medication.
That's correct, and the veteran want that because that helps them document medically through the VA that they got a serious problem, therefore they can get more money.
Okay.
But at the same time, a lot of them, it really messes them up.
What you indicated, we didn't go into detail. You said they have learned, the Army has learned that there's a lot of problems with these medications. Give us real quick some of those problems.
I'm trying to get away from medical jargon. Not being able to sleep, feeling suicidal.
I'm sorry, say that. Not being able to sleep and what?
What kill somebody, taking their own lives. Other symptoms would be like can't concentrate. The general headaches, all kinds of it's a laundry list of stuff that they can go through, and this is a product from the medications, and more so than it is from actual experience in the war.
Okay, all right. The medications have what are called side effects.
Yes.
That can be interpreted by a clinician, a doctor, or someone who doesn't deal deeply in this thing, as being a direct result can said to be a direct result from their experience in the war, but is actually a side effect of the medication.
That is correct.
So here's a situation.
Research has shown the improvement, and that is why they have decided to recommend reducing these medications. It has started reducing some, but it is still way too high. And these symptoms, and they have started doing tests and finding out people who were getting medical treatment versus people getting talking therapy. The talking therapy has given better results. But when they do research giving them medicine and placebos are false medicine, there was no difference between the false medicine and the real medicine.
Okay. And we're not going to go. But here's a point that you made, that one of the side effects of some of the medications is sleeplessness.
Definitely.
Okay,
yes.
And one of the things that they have revealed to the public is that the soldier at Fort Hood was given a Ambien for sleeplessness. Ambien.
Oh, okay.
And Ambien, and although they're not saying it, this is Brother Leroy hypothetical. I can hypothesize on this, that if he has sleeplessness, it could have been a result of the other medications that he was on, which they are not revealing to us.
That's correct.
And
matter of fact, the sleepiness is the biggest effect of all of them, of the symptoms that we get, not being able to sleep. If you go without sleep for days and so forth, gradually it is terrible. Here's one thing in particular with people with Vietnam veterans. We now are in our late 60s and 70s. And that medicine, they have found out, increases by 50% symptoms of dementia.
Symptoms of dementia.
Yeah, that's correct.
All right,
therefore, they've been diagnosed with Alzheimer's and dementia, and because of their conditions. But it's the medicine they found out that causes that.
Okay, it's not. Listen, the word to the wise in terms of our audience is be very careful in putting your young children on psychotropic drugs because someone says they need it, or the individual thinks that they need it, because the side effects can be devastating. What you have not gone into is the fact that the side effect of some of these psychotropic drugs is aggression and suicide.
Yes, and we see the same thing in PTSD, And also, it has led many to alcoholism and drug use. That's why you see so many on the street homeless. They are, I would say, it might be 70% of the homeless people are military veterans who are drug addicts and so forth on the street because this medicine has been associated with causing a lot of that behavior.
Dr. Ashanti, we are at the very end. I want to thank you very much for joining us. God bless you, my brother.
Thank you so much.
Give the telephone number where folks can reach you.
919-452-4262.
All right, my brother. God bless you.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, this Thursday at Abyssinian Baptist Church, the great debate, Congressman Rangel, Senator Espelot, and Michael Waldron, and that's at 6 o'clock. The doors open, and 7 o'clock the debate begins. Peace.
You're listening to WHCR 90.3 FM, the voice of Harlem.
Diva's Beauty Salon has moved. Diva's Beauty Salon, a team of professional Dominican hairstylists with more than 10 years of experience in Harlem, has